Mr. Trivett, would you call the roll, please?
Here.
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 Okay, first on the agenda is consideration and appointment of the clerk and deputy clerk of council.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We need to have an official clerk for the city council, and the city code then also provides for the opportunity to have a deputy clerk, which we think is a good idea, just in case someday I couldn't be here. So we were asking for you to approve both me as the clerk and Michelle as the deputy clerk.
Any questions or?
Mr. Trivett, how long do you anticipate this would be in place?
So we're currently in the process of finding an executive assistant to the city manager, and that gives us the opportunity to decide how work roles should be divided up in the office. My anticipation is that we're going to fill that position fairly quickly. It's already been advertised. We already have a wealth of applications. So I would think no more than 3 months.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve that?
So I move that we approve Mr. Trivett as the clerk of court council and Ms. DeWitt as the alternate.
Second.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Mr. Maslin.
Aye.
Okay, takes us to item 3 on the agenda, which is council minutes. We have 5 items on there. If there are no questions or corrections, is there a motion to approve as submitted?
So I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Mr. Maslin.
Aye.
Okay, matters of special privilege. Normally that would be a time where we would have one of our outstanding city employees come forward, but he is not with us today. He's still on maternity leave, so we wish him the best, and we'll catch him next month. So now it takes us to public hearing. And first on the agenda is public hearing to consider appointments to and reappointments to the Williamsburg-James City County School Board. So I would like to turn that over to Mr. Trivett, I guess, first, or is there any announcements you'd like to make?
So the process for appointing a school board member in the city requires that we have a public hearing prior to considering the applications in a final format. And so any applications for school board must be submitted before the close of today's public hearing. And at this time, we can invite anyone who's signed up to speak, as well as anyone that hasn't signed up to speak, relative to the school board appointment process to come forward.
And just so everyone knows, we have had 4 applicants submit their applications to City Council. We've had the opportunity to interview each of those 4. The current seat that we're filling is an expiring term of December 31st that currently Ms. Cook has served, and she has not put her name in the hat for reappointment. So with that, are there any questions for staff before I open the public hearing? Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing, and I have some speakers card here, so I'll call them out in the order in which I received them, and the first one is Amy Lynn Smith. Good afternoon. If you just state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Amy Lynn Smith. I live at 131 Indian Springs Road, Williamsburg, Virginia, 23185. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the citizens of the City of Williamsburg on my own behalf regarding my desire to serve on the WJCC School Board. What makes a great school? The best evidence, along with our common sense, tells us that the answer is effective teaching, attentive and well-trained learners, supportive and encouraging parents and guardians, a safe, well-equipped learning environment, as well as reliable and competent support staff. Thanks to the strong leadership and hardworking teachers and staff, the over 11,000 students attending the 16 WJCC schools are being encouraged to reach their fullest potential through an academically rigorous and socially enriching school experience. There are great things being done at the WJCC schools. Despite all the good being done, WJCC schools, like many schools across our nation, find themselves recovering from the effects of a global pandemic and are thus facing many challenges. These include here the consideration of a shift in the school start time, bus driver shortage, teacher shortage, job dissatisfaction amongst teachers, including compensation matters, parents' growing concerns with the content of and limited access to or knowledge of their students' instructional material, parents' diminishing trust or wavering trust in teachers and administrators regarding the lack of transparency about curriculum and school happenings, as well as an expressed concern about the safety of students with diverse and unique needs from the perspective of teachers and parents. Never mind the usual and more mundane needs to maintain and improve school infrastructure. I want to be part of the team working to make our schools the best that they can be for every child and family. I discovered my own passion for special education on the playground in kindergarten. There I met a young girl with an intellectual disability. I asked her to be my friend, and the rest is history. Because of my kindergarten teacher, she was very observant, so observant to see my love for individuals with disabilities, and bold enough to engage with my parents and school administration so that I could regularly visit my peers' classroom for up to an hour, multiple times a week. As we proceeded to move around the world, thanks to the United States Navy, I continued working with students with special needs through my senior year of high school. After graduating from the University of South Florida with my bachelor's in exceptional student education, I immediately started working as a full-time teacher for children with autism spectrum disorders at the high school and elementary levels in Tampa, Florida. It was with much dismay that I left the classroom after 4 years of exceptional years, working with the best colleagues and, of course, my amazing families, to follow my husband into his new career out of state. Since leaving the classroom, I've held positions working in a DC-based nonprofit. I've served in ministry, worked for and with community health initiatives for women and adolescent girls, as well as conduct education research policy and write state briefs. In addition, I completed a master's in community health promotion and began my doctorate in education policy. My professional experiences afforded me the opportunity to construct and implement budgets where the needs and sometimes outnumbered the purse strings, and adjustments had to be made. My time in the classroom and other professional endeavors allowed me to work with and at times manage a diverse group of people with varying personalities and perspectives. In the end, my ability to highlight and draw on the strengths and gifts of others on our teams enabled us to reach our organizational goals, despite not always agreeing. Here is where I believe my greatest professional strength lies. It is in my ability, much like my kindergarten teacher, to identify the gifts and talents and abilities of others and bring them on board, so to speak, to address and make better the situation or organization in need. I believe this is a necessary skill for a school board member whose primary responsibility is to hire and support the superintendent. As a classroom teacher, a lifelong learner, and a mother of 3 small children, I feel my experiences and passion for excellent education have uniquely equipped me to serve the City of Williamsburg on the WJCC School Board. I am humbled and honored to be considered for the position, and I trust the members of the City Council know best the needs and desires of the community that they serve, and thus are best positioned to identify and appoint the most appropriate candidate to serve them. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today, for your time and attention, and for all of your willingness to serve and make Williamsburg a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you.
Next, I have Andrea Donner. Welcome.
Thank you. Andrea Donner, 1454 Manor Boulevard, Williamsburg, Virginia, 23185. Good afternoon, Mayor Pons, City Council members, and members of the community. My name is Andrea Donner, and I'm an applicant for the City of Williamsburg seat on the WJCC School Board. As a member of the community for over 12 years, I would be humbled and honored to represent the City of Williamsburg. I applied for the position for 3 reasons. The first is that I am a mom of a student in the school division. The decisions made by the school board have a material impact on the lives, educational opportunities, and experiences of children and families in our community. A well-functioning system is inclusive of many voices, and for the school board, the voices of parents with children in the school division are of utmost importance. If selected, I will be accessible to parents and students to hear their ideas and concerns and be a voice for those directly impacted by those decisions. The second reason I applied is that I know the value of public education and want to ensure that the school division delivers on that promise for all children. I attended K through 12 public schools in New York, and my education prepared me to graduate from Wellesley College and Harvard Business School. Similarly, the WJCC School Division does well in many areas, preparing our kids for the world. We outperform Virginia averages in several areas, including on-time graduation rates and SOL pass rates. We have a strong track record of school accreditation. We offer courses that allow students to explore their interests from the arts to trades to advanced academics. And yet, with all that is going well, we still have opportunities to better serve our students. Like many divisions, we have an academic achievement gap. Black, Hispanic, economically disadvantaged, English language learners, and students with disabilities perform better on assessments than the state average, yet the pass rates demonstrate a persistent double-digit gap compared to white and Asian students. Additionally, the graduation rates for Hispanic, English language learners, and economically disadvantaged students are lower than their peers. We have a responsibility to address the disciplinary experiences of students in our school division. The data shows that WJCC is amongst the worst in the state for the racial discipline gap. We have an opportunity to be a beacon in how to fix this. As a school board member, I am committed to working with the fellow members, the administration, teachers, and community leaders to address these and other challenges. That leads me to my third reason for applying. I want to ensure teachers are respected, compensated, and equipped to do their jobs. Our school division has acutely felt the teacher shortage. Classroom sizes are too large. Pay lags the state average in neighboring school divisions. We struggle to hire and retain teachers of color, whose numbers have steadily declined, while the number of students of color have increased. As a school board member, I am committed to collaborating with administrators, teachers, and local governments and community organizations to address these issues. Additionally, the school board must address expansion. I will work with a coalition of stakeholders to arrive at an answer that lessens the burden on overcrowded classrooms and honors the needs of families and a growing populace. Lastly, I will support teachers in the work that they do. They are the ones in the classrooms with the students. Teachers are on the pulse of what students need and how to teach them best. As a school board member, I will be there to listen, support, and facilitate teachers practicing their vocation and staff members having the resources to support the entire educational system. Having a hand in the experience of over 11,000 students and 2,000 faculty and staff is humbling and something that I do not take lightly. While no one is ever 100% prepared for any role, I bring two key elements to the table. The first is that with more than 20 years of leadership experience in corporate America, I am an analytical, strategic decision maker who can build coalitions and influence stakeholders to ethically drive to the best outcomes. Secondly, I have the humility to be open, to listen, and to learn. I brought these skills to the Williamsburg community as a trustee of the Williamsburg Health Foundation and through various civic and volunteer organizations. In conclusion, I appreciate City Council's consideration of my application. To the school board, I bring the passion of a parent who thinks about how her votes and the board's decisions will impact thousands of children. The conviction of a community member who is proud of our school division and knows that we can be a beacon for what is right in public education and truly elevate beyond excellence. The recognition of the brilliance, excellence, and creativity that our teachers have, and the conviction to support them. The skills of a seasoned professional, hard-earned through 2 decades in the private sector. What I've demonstrated so far has earned, in this process, has led the NAACP and the Williamsburg-James City Education Association to endorse me. I hope that I presented a compelling case to the Williamsburg community and City Council for you to entrust me with this position. Thank you for the opportunity and your time.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. Next card I have is Cynthia Baker. No?
Open forum,
I
I think.
have- oh,
I think that's
but-
open forum.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a public hearing.
Nope. Well, Ms. Baker?
So isn't this a public hearing where,
Yeah, but I think she wants to speak during open forum.
okay,
So do you want me to speak now?
I think you wanted to speak during open forum. You didn't want to speak about the school board appointments, right?
Yeah, one of my topics is about the
Okay.
school board, so I don't, but is that now time?
It can be. It's fine.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Baker, and I live at 89 Governor Berkeley Road in Williamsburg. And I just wanted to have an opportunity to speak about this. I don't have any children in the school system. All my children are grown up. Regrettably, I do not even have any grandchildren. I'm hoping, though. But I have been alarmed about some of the content that's been taught in our schools, and I don't need to tell you, it's very controversial. And so it has made me want to pay attention to who's being appointed by the school board, to the school board from Williamsburg. And of course, I know you're aware that there was a referendum to try to ask the city residents whether or not they wanted to have school board members elected or appointed. And I had a lot of conversations actually with Ted about this. I was very conflicted about it. I see the pros and the cons, but I did not see any harm in asking our citizens what they thought. And there were over 1,000 people, I don't know the exact numbers, maybe 1,300 or something, that signed this petition that do live in Williamsburg. And I think they're going to remember that it was thwarted. I'm not saying you all had anything to do with that, but I think you will want to be aware of that when you come up for election again. And my other point I want to make is that one reason I came today is that I wanted to learn about these people who are up for school board. And it's very difficult, not transparent at all. I had to ask, I talked to Michelle. Are you here, Michelle?
I'm right here.
Yeah, there you are. Trying to find out CVs, resumes, something. And it's just not there. And I think it's important that it be transparent to the public who these people are. We need to know more about them, and I hope you will address that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker card I have is Nina Simone.
Hi, my name is Nina Simone. I live at 210 Matoka Court. I'm here to speak on behalf of Amy Smith and support her in her appointment to school board. I have 4 daughters in the WJCC schools. I have a daughter at Lafayette, I have 1 at Berkeley, and I have 2 at Matthew Whaley. So we started our tenure in this school system in 2014, and Lord willing, we'll graduate the last one in 2033. Oh gosh, it's a lot of forms. We love the school system. We love this community. It has formed my children and has formed our family in amazing ways. And so I feel strongly about supporting our school board and also speaking out on who I think would do an excellent job. And Amy Smith is. I met Amy 2 summers ago at my country club, the Williamsburg Community Pool. And she was expecting her twin babies, who are now boys that are almost toddlers probably, and she had her preschooler with her, and it's been a delight to get to know her and her family. But it was my role as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Williamsburg Library, it was in that role that I was able to see Amy as an advocate. She did some advocacy work towards the library board this past spring, and I saw a persistence, I saw an ability to articulate herself, and I saw a graciousness in how she pursued her goals that I don't often see in these sorts of settings. As we consider all of our candidates in all sorts of offices these days, we've often talked about policy, and then when we've started talking about character, and I think we'd all agree that there's another piece that seems to be important, and that is tenure. And the tenor of how she speaks, of how she does her work, of how she considers issues, and how she keeps going with what she believes and also listens is very, very important. Amy is educated, she's intellectual, she's thoughtful, she's kind, and she would be an excellent, excellent advocate for our children and our families on the school board. And I encourage you to appoint her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker's card I have is Caroline Hanley.
Good afternoon. Caroline Hanley, 733 Scotland Street in Williamsburg. As an educator and the parent of a WJCC student, I followed the school board's work closely. The need for practical, committed, and effective leadership on the school board is pressing, and I'm here to support Andrea Donner for WJCC school board member. Andrea is a proven leader with a long-standing commitment to our community's health and vitality. As a 12-year resident of our community and a parent of a WJCC elementary school student, Andrea is well-positioned to understand and represent the concerns of our local parents. Andrea has an impressive record of private and philanthropic leadership. Her successful career in business means she is well-qualified to understand complicated issues and to work effectively with diverse constituencies. Andrea's experience on various philanthropic boards, including as a trustee for the Williamsburg Health Foundation, means that she understands the wide array of experiences and concerns that affect our community. From building consensus to balancing the budget, I believe Andrea is ready to do the hard work that makes our schools run. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come forward and talk on this particular matter? If you'd like to come forward and talk about the school board appointment, that'd be fine.
I'm Neil Chakakar, address 700B Landrum Drive. I graduated from high school last year in Northern Virginia. I'm a student at William & Mary, and I came out as transgender 7-8 months ago. I would like to encourage the Williamsburg City Council to appoint a school board member who supports transgender issues, who would advocate for transgender students, who does not support Youngkin's anti-transgender executive order, and that is something that is very important to me. In addition, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at age 4 or 5, and that having special education or someone who understands that on the board is also very important. I was born when I was in elementary school. I had a teacher, and in 4th grade, I had a teacher who was not particularly supportive of kids with autism spectrum disorder and other differences from normal children. My special education teacher helped put me in a group with other kids who needed support, who needed help, I guess, with executive functioning and other issues. And having support, or having someone with special education experience or someone who supports special education on the board would also be very beneficial for anyone in Williamsburg, in WJCC, who has, or anyone on the school board, any children who have autism spectrum disorder or any other issues with which they may require more help than an average student. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to come forward? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come to council for some discussion. But that said, we will make the appointment in December, which will give additional opportunity for folks to reach out to any member of council to share their support of a particular candidate. We cannot accept applications beyond this point.
That's correct.
So the 4 candidates that have submitted their names are the ones that council will be considering in December. So anybody would like to add anything to that?
Just say thank you to all of the candidates for your interest in serving on the WJCC School Board representing Williamsburg. And for those of you that came out to speak on their behalf, we really appreciate the input, and we take all that into consideration when we make the decision in December. So thank you.
So just in the interest of transparency, can we name the 4th candidate?
So the 2 that aren't here, one was Ms. Braxton and Kenneth Blakely.
Thank you.
And I would just like to reiterate what Vice Mayor Dent said, that it's gratifying to see candidates and have 4 candidates, very qualified candidates, come forward and submit their application for school board. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the time that you all spent with us on the 31st of October, getting to know you and learn of your qualifications, and really glad that we have such a good pool to select and someone to serve on the school board.
And I echo that. Thank you to those who applied and for those that came in support of friends and everyone who's been a part of the process. I'll only add that the intention of making this decision in December is to allow us some time for additional public comment. So, Ms. Baker, I understand your point, and we welcome anyone emailing, calling in before we officially make the nomination in December.
So, Ms. Baker, if you have any additional questions, you can meet with us afterwards, but we don't, not going to get into an exchange of trying to answer everybody's questions here from the dais.
Doug, one more.
I'll email you.
Mr. Maslin?
Yeah, so just for some clarification out there, we've asked all 4 candidates, if this was an elected position, would they run a campaign for this position? And all 4 of them have said no.
Okay, so we'll carry this over till December, and again, our contact information's on the website, so please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, concerns, or affirmation of any of the candidates. Takes us now to item B on the agenda, which is PCR number 22-015, an ordinance amending Chapter 21 zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 15, Plan Development District, PDR, PDC, and PDU, in Article 5, parking, to add a Plan Development Housing District. I have to shorten that up. Ms. Griffin.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if you wanted me to go through the entire presentation as I did on Monday. So if there's any part of this that you have questions about, please let me know. I won't take as much time as I did on Monday to do that.
So, yeah, thank you for that. So we did have a good conversation on Monday as you went through the presentation, and I think part of that presentation was a recommendation to carry this public hearing on to December. So we're not going to have a public hearing on this particular issue today. I think from what I understand, the consensus of council is to go ahead and re-advertise that in December. So I think, Mr. Vice Mayor Dent, do you have a motion?
Is I recommend that City Council take this item to be heard at the December City Council meeting, allowing staff time to make any amendments identified by council at the work session.
Second.
Mr. Rogers?
No?
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll see you in December, Ms. Griffin. Next public hearing is consideration and approval to grant an easement to Dominion Energy for utility installation associated with the new fire station project. Schneider.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pons, Vice Mayor Dent, and City Council members. Just have a request for the ground-mounted transformer that's going to supply the new fire station. The current transformer does not have the capacity to meet the utility needs of the new fire station, so we're going to be putting in Dominion will be placing a 480 kilowatt transformer to meet the needs of the new fire station. In order to do that, we have to locate it adjacent to the current generator existing on site, which will require us to grant an easement. The city attorneys reviewed the documentation. It'll be in the northwest corner of the property. It should be in the locations defined in your guys' council packet, and also have the city engineer here for any particular questions in terms of the reason and any of the easement requests.
Any questions for the chief?
Straightforward.
Yes, sir.
Any info on lead time?
I do not have any specific information. Aaron, do you have anything on that?
My understanding is going to be probably about, we're looking at about 6 to 8 weeks on that.
Okay.
But it is one of
that's
those
good.
things, we've been keeping a track of that and working with Dominion on making sure it doesn't impact the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
I have no questions.
Neither do I. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will open the public hearing, which is, again, the opportunity for anybody to come forward to speak on this issue. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to council for additional comments or action.
So you ready for some action?
I'm ready for some action. Bring it on.
So I recommend that City Council authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents to convey the easement at 440 North Boundary Street to Dominion Energy Virginia for the utility needs of the fire station project.
Second.
Mr. Trivett.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Okay, takes us now to item 6, reports. First is the monthly financial statement. There she is. Welcome.
Welcome and good afternoon. The October report for the current fiscal year has some favorable results within the general fund, which is the city's operating fund. We have a net increase in revenue of about $359,000, and I say net because there's some increases and a couple of decreases. In the increases compared to last year, we see an increase of room tax of $100,000, meals tax of $160,000, permits and license of $105,000. That's predominantly building permits, and increase compared to last year in public safety grants of $138,000. A lot of that is related to our SAFER grant, which reimburses us for some fire officers, and some of that is some timing difference. However, these increases were offset by decreases compared to the previous year, one of which is in real estate tax of $260,000. I believe that's a timing difference. While our bills went out within the correct time frame, maybe a little bit later than last year, so I think we'll see that catching up at the end of this month, 1st of December. And we also, last year, we received an additional grant from the Williamsburg Health Foundation for eviction prevention of about $220,000 that we don't have, at least at this point this year. And so together we saw increases in revenues of $840,000 offset by $361,000, the large portion of which I think is just a timing difference. The expenditures in the general fund are in line with our budget. Some other revenues that are worth mentioning is we also see an increase compared to last year in our sales tax revenue of about 17%. That equates to about $139,000. Also, an increase in our historic sales tax of 22%. It represents about $74,000. And in the $2 lodging tax, we see a 7% increase. That represents about $19,000. In the utility fund, the water bill as of the end of October increased by about 4.2%, and that's consistent with an increase in consumption. The expenditures in the utility fund are also in line with the budget, and that includes my comments for the October report. I'm happy to address any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Tammer. I don't have any questions, Ms. Vice Mayor.
No questions.
I just have a comment. So I was able to spend many days in front of the municipal building greeting people during the early voting times. And there was people there to vote, people there to pay a fine, and people there to pay their taxes early.
Yeah.
And the third group seemed to be the happiest.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And they really appreciate the value from the city that they receive for their taxes. They appreciate how helpful the staff is. And they recognize how much lower our real estate tax rate is from other cities, especially in Virginia and up and down the East Coast.
Well, I appreciate those comments, particularly in regards to staff. And having worked in other localities, I can say we're very blessed because we don't have as hard a time as some other localities collecting those bills. So.
Comments or questions, Ms. Ramsey?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
None for me. Thanks, Director Damon.
Thank you. All right, takes us to monthly departmental operating report. Mr. Trivett, whose turn is it today in the barrel?
Today, we're going to hear from the planning director.
Right.
It's my turn. Good afternoon again, Mr. Pons, Mayor Pons, and all members of City Council. Today, I wanted to provide an overview of the development process that we use here in the city and to give you an update on a few projects that we have underway. First, I wanted to start with the foundation, and that is the purpose of the Development or Planning and Codes Compliance Department. Our vision is to preserve and manage and protect the natural and built environment. We do this by making sure that we implement the city's vision and goals, which we find in our comprehensive plan. And to accomplish this, we do this through the implementation of plans and projects, and also the enforcement of applicable legislation. The first thing I want to talk about is a comprehensive plan, and I won't take a lot of time, but I get excited when I talk about the comprehensive plan. It is the 10-year plan for the city. It's actually mandated through the state code, and it gives the vision and goals of the city when it comes to the natural and built environment. There are various chapters in our plan. Our plan was adopted in September of last year. We'll find things in there to talk about housing and the environment. The wonderful thing about the comprehensive plan is that it is a plan that takes several years to do, but it involves citizens. It involves focus groups, planners getting out into the city and making sure we hear from our constituents. The next piece of the foundation is legislation, and these are ordinances such as the zoning ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, the building code ordinance, and other applicable ordinances that we use in order, when a site plan comes in our office, to review it to make sure that it meets all of those requirements. And our final product is our beloved community. Again, through this entire process, it is an opportunity for citizens to give their input on how they want to see the city move forward. Next, I want to talk to you about the process. And this will be very general, and you'll see what I mean when everything comes up here. So first, we get an application. Someone comes in and they give us a site plan, a subdivision plan, or some type of plan that they want us to review. We do that review, and then we give them comments, we give them revisions, and then we either approve or disapprove the plan. Now, again, that's very general. Wanted to get more into the steps that we use. First, we have an expert team, just not in my department, but throughout the city. And when we're looking at site plans or subdivisions or planning and zoning related products, we include all of our expert team. That includes our fire department, codes compliance, our engineers, and also our police. And we also lean on our state partners. And I'll just go through and tell you who they are. They are VDOT. VDEQ stands for the Department of Environmental Quality, VDHR, the Department of Historic Resources, and also DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development. And City Council appoints boards and commissions that also help us in our planning world. And these boards and commissions are also mandated by the state code. We have the Architectural Review Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Planning Commission, and of course yourself, City Council. I wanted to take a few minutes just to highlight the staff in my office. Our building official is Lori Springsteen. She is a certified building official, and she is also a master code professional. Now, there are just 1,200 master code professionals in the United States, and 5% are women. So I just think that's wonderful, and we have one of them in Lori Springsteen. Myself, and we do have a vacancy in the principal planner position. We'll be having interviews actually next week. We also have our certified zoning official, and that is Heather Markle. Our building inspectors are all certified, Jane, Scott, David, and Greg. We have our permit technician, who is Dory Patterson. She is a certified permit technician. And then we have our capable administrative professional who keeps me organized. I wanted to just go over a few things that you may see coming up and you see being built around town. The first, you're familiar with the new fire station, 440 North Boundary Street. And this list just gives you an overview of the different pieces that go into making what you see come to life. The highlighted areas here, the final inspections and the CO is currently what hasn't taken place. Everything else is what's been done for the fire station. Here, I had to include Starbucks coffee. This is going to be at 327 Richmond Street. You'll see here everything in the purple is what is to come. So they've gotten their site plan review approval, ARB has approved their concept, and building permits they have pulled for that, and now we will go through and have inspections, third-party inspections, final inspections, and then their CO. Next is the Cabell Archaeology Center. I believe you're all familiar with that. The rezoning and the special use permit had to come through City Council, ARB, and now we're working through their site plan review. That plan has not been approved quite yet, but we are working towards that. Next is the relocation of the Bray School. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. This has gone through the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Planning Commission, and the site plan. We're currently working on the site plan, and that will go to the Planning Commission actually next week. Development that I wanted to give you just an update on is Quarter Path Development. Riverside Doctors Hospital, as you know, is there. The Village Green North Townhouses and Attain Luxury Apartments are already built. What we have going on now, and you might, if you go out there, you'll see the two highlighted in yellow, the Riverside Medical Office Building and the Virginia Greens are currently underway. And then we have a site plan for Greenwood Village Townhomes, and we anticipate site plans for the Kibor Townhomes and Peninsula Dermatology. That concludes my presentation. Of course, we have a lot more plans in the office, but I just wanted to highlight a few. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So no questions, just a comment. You know, I served 8 years on the Planning Commission, and gosh, I don't know how many comprehensive plans I've been a part of in the last 20 years. But it is always exciting, kind of, and maybe you have to be kind of wonky about that stuff to find it exciting. But I think, you know, where we are with our comprehensive plan compared to where we were, gosh, in the early 2000s when it was much fatter. I think it's a readable document, and I know you weren't here for that planning process, but I hope as you were here for the next one, we'll keep it streamlined and efficient moving forward. But it's exciting to see the new stuff happening in Williamsburg and you know, adding new things, but being respectful to who we are, and that happens through land use and zoning. So I appreciate the review and update. Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Ms. Griffin, for the informative presentation, and most of all, even though, as you indicated, it's basic steps, it's still a good refresher for everyone watching and for us, what goes into the process, and more importantly, thank all of the team that you mentioned that pulls all of this together every day. One of the things I'd like to say is I know you still have not been in Williamsburg very long, but I really appreciate that you've had an open door policy and taken time out of your day to meet with city council members on various issues. One of the ones that we tabled today, there's been a lot of discussion about it, but your input but most of all, taking the time to meet with us and answer our questions and clarify things for us has really been helpful. So I really appreciate that you're willing to do that to broaden our knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, following up on the Vice Mayor's comments, yeah, it's been really helpful for, you know, looking at what's going before the Planning Commission and understanding their comments and what the public forum comments are. And in some cases, reaching out to the Planning Department and the city engineer to actually have site visits to actually understand what's going on out there before it comes to City Council. So that's been very helpful. Good. Just for some clarification, so the comp plan is a 10-year plan, which we actually revisit every 10 years, and if there's input before then, how does that get captured?
You actually should revisit the comp plan every 5 years.
Right.
But it is a 10-year document. But you should, by good practice, is revisit it every 5 years.
And sometimes it takes a couple of years for that 5-year visit.
It does.
But if comments are coming in during the interim, is there some way that you capture all those so that when it
Yeah.
comes up?
Since I've been here, I haven't had any comments come in, but my normal process is to capture them pretty much in a Word document and keep it going as we go through updates. If there's something that needs to be updated along the way, then I would bring that to the city manager, who would then bring that to council to determine if that's how we want to move forward. But normally, every 5 years is a good benchmark to update the comp plan.
And then if some things come up that maybe we want a more immediate update of the comp plan, those come to planning and the city council, correct?
Yes, they should. The Planning Commission is mandated in the state code to review that. So if there's someone who has questions about the comp plan or who wants to see some revisions, they should visit the office first.
So other things that might come from the planning commission to us would be a special use permit?
Yes?
Are there other things? What, could you explain about a special use permit?
Yes, so a special use permit is outlined in the zoning ordinance as uses that are not allowed by right because of the nature of the use. And so therefore, we want to kind of review to make sure that what is taking place on the property is really agreeable to neighbors and also the best character of the meets the best character of the neighborhood. So it's not that they're not allowed, but we do want to make sure it's the best fit.
And that gives city council a second chance to look at it.
Well, actually, first it goes to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission makes a recommendation, and there is a public hearing at that time, and then it moves forward to the City Council. A rezoning also comes before the Planning Commission and the City Council.
What, now, William and Mary projects, you showed one of those. Could you explain about how William and Mary has their own building official?
Now, you said the William and Mary?
Yeah, in terms of William and Mary projects that are state
Oh,
projects.
you're talking about the Starbucks?
Yeah, well, no, state projects on their campus.
Okay.
Because the Starbucks is the foundation, right?
Yes.
Project, so that's different. But state projects like PBK or Muscarelli, you don't review those, is that correct?
We would not. At times, they would give us a courtesy review to look at it, but it's not something that comes through our office and that would come to the Planning Commission or City Council.
And then finally, what about the maintenance inspector? Can you talk a little bit about that role and what that person does out there?
Yes, that is Gregory Stanley, and he is our property maintenance inspector. He's also our rental inspector. And he's responsible in that role. He does not do building inspections at this time or trade inspections. We do have a rental inspection cycle and a property maintenance review. If someone has an issue with the property, they would phone him and he will go out and take a look. We cannot go into homes unless we are invited in, and we do not go onto the property, but he can view an issue from the public right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the report, and it's nice to see so many projects that are up and coming, and also to appreciate the very detailed and comprehensive process that they all must go through. And one thing I think should be noted is that you all do a lot with a very small team. So we're very appreciative of all that. And I know sometimes people think, oh, it's going to take so long, we're never going to get through this. But looking back over my 6 years on City Council, there are so many projects that have come to fruition that I'm excited to see these get under construction, get finished, and the next ones come forward. So
Good.
thank you for all you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I echo that. Thank you, Director Griffin. I got to be a part of the comp plan workings in 2018 under former Director Murphy, and it was around that year where we tried to distill it a little bit, make it a little bit more readable for the public and potential developers. So I've no doubt under your leadership, the office will do the same, and thank you for this refresher on all that goes into new developments in the city.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. City manager report, anything, Mr. Truitt?
Yes, I would like to take just a minute, and it's my pleasure to announce that I have decided to appoint Larry Snyder as the city's next fire chief. So congratulations.
Does he have a speech?
I think he should have a speech. Mr. Snyder has served the city well for the last few months and taken on some challenges that were not easy, including seeing a major development of a new fire station get underway. And he's done so more than ably. And in that time, he has really ensconced himself as an invaluable part of the city's leadership team. So we're really excited to have him on board as a full-time fire chief. Thank you, Larry.
Yes, thank you, and that is great news. I'm excited to have you continue your service, but in a new position. God, how many years have you been with the fire department now? 8 years, so well-deserved position, and no doubt in my mind, as we conclude the construction of the new fire department, you're the right person to lead the team into the new building with new equipment, new attitude, new everything, and so congratulations and welcome to the new position. Anybody else have any comments?
No, just congratulations.
Very
Well
excited for you.
deserved, Yeah.
Well done.
Any other city manager?
No, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mr. Trivett, in years past, we've had free parking in the garage during the holiday season. And again, members of council have been approached by a number of businesses in the community that are asking to.
Bobby, did you have something you wanted to say?
So they were asking that we consider this year from December the 17th through January the 1st to offer free parking in the parking garage. I don't know if any other council members
Yeah, so,
have.
and we've done that in the past. And I think we all in the past have considered that as an opportunity for visitors to come down and park for free and do some holiday shopping. So the trade-off, I think, is there, and I think we, for me at least, I'd like to see us continue that.
Yeah, I understand, Director Dameron, you may have some numbers around potential cost and benefit.
I went back and looked at that week and that I think we're talking about. Back to 2018, December of 2018, and actually the highest year was 2021, and that was just a little over $5,600, and that we generated from parking revenues that week.
So that would be revenue loss, but I imagine, is it more difficult to get an idea
It
for
is.
revenue generated from sales tax?
It is, particularly in a short time frame. We could speculate, but that would just
There's no way to correlate
Yeah.
an increase in sales tax during that period because it's the holidays to one specific event like free parking in the garage.
So in the past, we've actually budgeted for that free parking. In this budget, have we done that?
I think what we've had, I know one year we may have done some free, I think we increased the time period, not just straight up free, and so that would be taken into account.
Yeah, one of the things I think we want to remember is it's our residents that keep the doors open for our businesses. And this is something that really helps us keep residents coming to Merchant Square rather than other areas that might have free parking.
So, did we, that helped remind me that we did an extended period of time. We didn't do unlimited parking, or did we?
Looking back, we think we did some free possibly, but we couldn't dig quite back to be sure, but we did 2 hours at one point, true. And then I know in 2019, we see a dip in December of 19. So like 18, we had $3,000 that week. We dropped down to $359, which again, December 19 would have been an FY20, but before we really shut down. And so we're thinking we may have done something extended then. But our data that we have available didn't really dig into that. And so I kind of looked at where we had, our revenue loss, so to speak, which is minimum.
Yeah.
So are we talking about free, like someone can come in and park for 4 or 6 hours? Or are we talking 2 hours, which is about $2 savings for someone?
So I think that, I mean, it's up to the city council, whatever you would direct us to do. I think the concern that we normally would have would be that if you allow free parking just generally, then people will warehouse cars there to avoid parking fees in other places. That time of year, I haven't looked at the academic calendar, but I assume classes are over and ended, and so much of the students will be gone home. And either right about then or getting close to then, William & Mary's professors will be on leave as well for the holidays. So that's probably a minimal risk, but that would be something to consider, I suppose. Certainly, free parking in the garage during the holiday seasons, if it's just free parking, we would probably see a good number of employees utilize the spaces all day and much of the night. So you could, if you're worried about that, you could ask us to do an extended hourly free like we did last year. I think we did do 2 hours, so.
I think, so to that, I think I'd be comfortable with extending the first 2 hours as free parking. Is that part of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, whatever, I know we talked earlier with Mr. Trivett and with Ms. Dameron that it would be insignificant, but however, there is a point of someone parking there for a long term and taking up spaces.
Yeah. So consensus, maybe first 2 hours free?
Sure. And that's from December 17th to January 1st? January 1st. Yep.
What's Mr. Trivett or Ms. Shelton, do we need a motion or, yeah?
I don't need a motion as long as it's a unanimous direction.
So the city manager is responsible to administer that as he directed him to.
Okay. So he's been so directed.
Got it. I'm on it.
First 2 hours free. And so, again, I think, you know, in the spirit of the holidays and spirit of having more people downtown enjoying the area and enjoying the shopping, I think this is a good initiative.
I would only suggest that we find a way to be sure we broadcast this, because constantly, I think we all hear of people don't know even where the garage is.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that we be clear that this will only be the parking garage, right? All the surface lots are still maintained, or still, the regulations are set by Colonial Williamsburg Foundation.
That's what I wanted to get
And
clear.
I doubt that they have the intention to change their rules for the holidays.
Okay, so we'll put that out in a press release. I'm sure our PIO's on that already. Where is she?
Probably gone out of it already.
Already gone and done it. Oh, there she is. Okay, so 2 hours free in the parking garage.
December 17th through January the 1st.
Yes, sir. Okay, Ms. Shelton, anything from the attorney?
Nothing today.
This takes us now to open forum, which is, again, the opportunity for anybody to come forward and share their thoughts. I do have 2 speakers cards. One, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get the name correct. Nalik Kalar? No?
Yildra.
Yeldra? Yeah. From the Lemon Hall?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I apologize for butchering your name.
All good. So I believe I was in contact with Councilman Maslin a week ago regarding potential changes to the curfew law, and I believe curfew ordinance, and I believe he sent an email to all of you, the others of you, about it. I wanted to share an experience, I guess. About 2 weeks ago, I, as a 17-year-old, a minor, but also a William & Mary student, I was attending an event with friends, and we were at the corner of Harrison and Lafayette, I believe, and it ended up being that the police were called upon me by some people in the house, because I was on the sidewalk, and some people called the police in the house across from me for reasons I do not fully understand. But basically, the curfew, it was 12:30 or 1, and the curfew applies from 12 to 5. And I was not, I had to go home, although there were reasons. My parents probably would have approved it. However, me being out. However, the Williamsburg City Ordinance states that a parent or guardian needs to accompany said minor or provide written permission for a minor to be out, even on an emergency errand or legitimate business. And because my parents are up in Northern Virginia, my parents are unable to do any of that in a given time frame. So I think the main issue is that the curfew is doesn't have any way for parents to consent if they do not live in the Williamsburg area. I was instructed to do some research about similar curfews in other college towns to see about ways that they might address this. And I found some interesting results that I figured I should probably share. For example, Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, it doesn't even have a curfew for minors. Harrisonburg also does not have a curfew. Norfolk and Charlottesville have a similar curfew to Williamsburg. However, they allow exceptions, such as if the minor is involved in an emergency, they may be out on the streets between 12 and 5 a.m. The minor is returning from their place of employment. The minor is attending an activity sponsored by a school/organization which has adults present. That last one actually would have likely applied to the event I was in which case in which case the police would not have needed to be called, or the police would not have been called. And I believe such exceptions would be very beneficial for Williamsburg because of all the college towns in Virginia that I could find, Williamsburg has the least exceptions and the least ability to do anything even with a parent or guardian's permission. And I'm going to probably work with some of you about looking at ways to potentially fix this, but I just wanted to bring it up to the whole council that I think this is a problem that could affect up to 10% of William and Mary students who are minors each year. And yeah, I feel like the parents should be able to consent in some way or form without living in Williamsburg. So, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that forward and being an advocate for your position. Okay. Would anybody, nope, I have one more speaker's card, sorry. Cynthia Baker, again. Almost lost my place on the agenda. Welcome again.
Thank you. I guess I don't need to tell you where I live this time, right?
That'd be fine.
But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the configuration of the signs for the candidates out front during voting, both election day and early voting. I think it's I know this is the first year that we've had the city elections at the same time in November, but it's just really, those signs were stacked up like sardines, and it made it really difficult for both the people running and the voters to have conversations with the people that were running. And I really think it would be a good idea. I even went in and asked Tina, I said, can we move air signs or some signs over to the other island? And she says, no, we can't, that the city manager makes that decision. And I'm not fussing at the city manager. It's a new time with all these people running. But, and I think it's confusing for the voters to know who's partisan and who's nonpartisan because they're all stacked up there. And I had not really an altercation with Ted because we're buddies. But, if I was talking to some people from my candidate who was partisan, then he was concerned that it might look like that he was affiliated with that party. So I think it needs to be straightened out somehow, so for your benefit too, so that it looks cleaner and not so confusing for both the voters and the candidates. So I just wanted to make that suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Baker. Okay, so that concludes all my speakers cards. But again, if somebody would like to come forward and have any comments, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none, I'll close the open forum and takes us to, there's nothing for unfinished business, so it'll take us to new business. The first is consideration and approval of the police station, Public Works Yard, and the third floor renovation in the municipal building, a PPEA process, and direction to staff to proceed with the interim agreement negotiation with Henderson Inc.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. So this is the item following up on our public hearing at the last meeting. You all have gone through due diligence with the submitted PPA proposals and have had interviews by the two firms, and ultimately are prepared today, I believe, to decide to proceed with interim agreement negotiations with Henderson Inc. to do the work. And so the staff is seeking that direction.
Good. So as the city manager says, we did receive two applications to do the work that's been identified on the agenda that we both spoke about, and we had two good candidates, two good significant proposals to consider, and through much deliberation with council, I think we've all agreed that moving forward with Henderson would be the best interest of the police station and our citizenry. Vice Mayor, any comments?
Yeah, I agree. We had two excellent proposals. After our evaluation of both proposals, we felt like the proposal from Henderson was the design that we desired, the functionality, and most of all, it satisfies Chief Dunn's needs. So I'm ready to move forward.
Mr. Maslin?
I agree with that, and I fully support the new location of the police station. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add other than just to echo what's already been said, that we had two good proposals. We had robust deliberations on both of them. I think we're all in the community are well aware of Henderson's reputation and their level of quality construction, so pleased to support this as well.
And as am I. We really did have a difficult decision, but are excited to move forward with Henderson.
Excellent. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yes, so I move that City Council approve proceeding with the negotiation of an interim agreement with Henderson Inc. in response to PPEA RFP 01-3101-23.
Second.
Trivet.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Congratulations. Let's get to work. Next is consideration of resolution number 22-22, authorizing a budget amendment appropriating $520,163 to the of the Williamsburg James City County surplus in fiscal year 2022 school year ending spending plan. Ms. Dameron.
Yes, this year the school had a surplus of slightly over $6 million. Close to half of those funds resulted from higher than anticipated revenue, most of which was the state sales tax exceeding the budget. The city's share of that surplus was close to $584,000. The School Board of Williamsburg and James City County Schools submitted their year-end spending plan to the city, which is attached to the agenda item. The plan totals $5,373,307. The city's share of that plan would be $520,136. Their plan includes projects such as safety and security enhancements, additional funding for the War Hill Gym and emergency shelter. That was budgeted for, but I believe the RFPs came in higher, something that we've been witnessing ourselves, and then school bus replacements. Renee Ewing, who is the finance director for the schools, asked me to extend an apology on her behalf. She intended to be here today. Slight accident, I don't know how slight, but she's fine, but I think maybe on crutches and unable to attend. However, Dr. Heron, the school superintendent, and Marcella Snipes, Senior, who's Director of Operations, are present if you want to have any more information regarding those projects. It would be the staff's recommendation, however, that this resolution be approved, appropriating the funds.
Any questions for Ms. Dameron or for Dr. Heron?
And Ms. Dameron, this is a typical process that we go through every year, correct?
Yes, it is. The state code requires that their surplus be returned to the city, and then, they can come back and request if they have a need. And it's pretty typical for us. And I will just note that of that surplus, that would leave close to $64,000 in the city's general fund, which would be in the fund balance.
And I'm confident with Dr. Herron and her staff that these are needed items for the school system. So it's definitely something we should do to support them.
Two questions. Are we hearing this before the Board of Supervisors or after?
Okay, the Board of Supervisors, I believe, approved their request in October, so we're hearing it after.
And then a hypothetical, let's say they did not approve it. Can we still approve our 10% and that goes forward?
I believe that has happened in the past, but they may not have all the funding they need, but we could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. As has been commented, this is a procedure and a process we've been through before and have supported like items in the past.
And I agree, and especially the projects of this year are very necessary. School safety is incredibly important, and I'd only encourage the school district, as I know they're already thinking about it, to consider electric buses for some of the replacement programs we'll do, adding to the 4 that we already have. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't have any questions. I support the school's plans. Any action?
Yeah, so I recommend that City Council approve Resolution 22-22, which approves the appropriations for the Williamsburg-James City County Schools year-end spending plan, which includes school bus replacements, the War Hill Auxiliary Gym, and emergency shelter and safety and security enhancements.
Second.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Takes us now to item C, consideration and adoption of resolution number 22-23, establishing the 2023 City of Williamsburg legislative agenda. Fall to,
That will be me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I was confused because it says staff recommendation, contact would be Economic Development Director.
Oh, they still have my old title. I'm sorry, Yuri. So apologize, I'm
No need.
taking roll as I'm for y'all as I'm doing this. So the proposed legislative agenda is before you. We discussed it in detail Monday. Happy to answer any questions, and staff is asking you to adopt the resolution that will make the legislative agenda official.
So I'll just kick it off. I was pleased with the agenda. I think it hits all the highlights, the things that are really important to the city. And again, as I said before, the strategy has been not to overwhelm the legislative agenda with too much, because then I think you get lost in the wash. And so by picking out the several things that are the key elements and then just touching more broadly on some of the smaller things is good. And part of the process is once we approve this and the General Assembly session is in session, a contingent of us will go up and meet with our local delegation, and we call it the Dog and Pony Show. They call it probably the same thing, I don't know. But it's a good time to get up there and really advocate for the residents of the city through this legislative agenda. So thank you for putting it together. Any comments?
Michelle, to the mayor's point, could you just talk about why we narrowed the focus just for the public? Because oftentimes they wonder why this particular item's not on the agenda, and over the years, what's been discovered as having these priority issues and not a long list of issues.
Absolutely. So as the mayor said, and as you asked, we tried to limit it to our top priority issues so we can ask our legislators, our representatives, to focus on those. They are limited to the number of bills they can introduce, and we want to make sure we keep them focused on our priority issues. Having said that, we also, with this resolution, City Council adopts the legislative agendas of many of our partners, including the Virginia Municipal League, Virginia First Cities, the Hampton Roads TPO and the PDC as well. So, and you'll see on your, on the agenda, we put their logos where they align with ours. So that gives us quite a bit of flexibility when it's in the city's best interest, and we have that caveat as well. It must be in the city's best interest that we can work with them on issues that may come up during the session that we're not aware of now, or things that they've gone into a little more detail on behalf of the region or the state.
And I think it's important, as you stated, that everyone understands it's not just Williamsburg, but we also speak with our strategic partners before identifying these priority issues.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I concur with the previous comments. One question, though, can you give us an update on the 64 funds for here to Richmond?
Certainly. So when we discussed this last month, or Monday, I believe, there is still a gap in the funding for I-64 widening between Williamsburg, James City County, and Richmond. There's 29 miles there that need to be widened. The state has pledged funds towards it, and the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and TPO have applied for a federal grant. In the Central Virginia District of Transportation District has also pledged funds towards it, leaving a gap of $50 million. So that's that's what you were asking, Mr. Maslin. The gap is $50 million. So that is in your agenda to ask the General Assembly to help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just for sort of relationship to the total cost of that 29 miles, I think that's in the $700 million
$750 million, yes.
So really 50 million shouldn't be that much more to get if we've already gotten the 700.
Absolutely.
The Ramsey Foundation.
And I appreciate you speaking about our partners. You and I were both on a call this morning with Virginia First Cities, and they had quite a lengthy legislative agenda, but one thing that was commented on a couple times was that this is a short session, and so it's 45 days?
Yes.
And the number of bills that can be sort of passed through is limited, as well as the number of days. So
Absolutely.
another reason to keep us to the point and to the best interest of the city.
Absolutely.
So, thanks.
Rogers?
Thank you, Michelle, for championing this. As has been mentioned, a lot of it is a rollover from previous years, supporting peer institutions or the I-64 widening. So I'm excited to see the results from that, and I'm hopeful, too, one of the new items on the public notice that will shift. It is a cost to the city, and I'm sure more people get information from the city from the website. Our social medias are very well-run social medias than just reading the paper. So good luck for that in that short session.
So I move that City Council adopt Resolution 22-23 as drafted.
Second?
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Item D under new business is consideration and adoption of the 2023-2024 Goals, Initiatives, and Outcomes document. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, so on Monday, we presented the final statements, or the draft of the final statements for the GIO initiatives, and it seemed like we were pretty consistent with what the thoughts and feelings of the City Council were at the retreat, and so we're presenting them to you today for adoption.
Yeah, so again, I think I know it seems like it's been going on a long time for the staff who's had to create and man many future festivals, but certainly council's been engaged in this process for a period of time and been out in the public listening to you all and getting feedback. But as we talked about Monday, some 900 people had participated in future festivals, giving us information, providing guidance to city staff in this document now that's ultimately been created. And I think we're at a good spot. You know, this document kind of gives the marching orders for what staff will be working on to present to City Council for final approval, and sometimes maybe go to Planning Commission on some items, depending on the nature of them. But I look forward to approving the document. So, anybody, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just say thank you to city staff for the creative ways that were utilized this year to gain citizen input. I think it was very helpful, obviously, great turnout with the future festivals, so that council has that information as we create GIOs for 23, 24. We had a 2-day retreat where we've gone through this list extensively. I'm sure somewhere along the way there'll be changes and additional input, but as it stands now, I think we're ready for approval.
I concur, but if the city manager could just talk about schedule and priorities as it relates to staff time, in terms of which ones you're going to work on first. And I think you're going to submit something later, right, in terms of schedule?
Yes, I was just we got a timeline here somewhere. I was going to pull it up. There it is. So this is the timeline, and so where we go from here is we're sort of deliberately not saying a whole lot about each one of the initiatives because it's the content of the State of the City address, and we'll begin drafting that in earnest now, preparing it for public review in December. And that'll sort of be the grand unveiling of the city's work plan for the next 2 years. And that's really just consistent with the fact that despite the fact that we're adopting these today, we really don't get started until January the 1st. So we've got a few more months of getting the current GIO set locked down. One of the questions that the city council had at the retreat was, are we putting too much on the plate of city staff? And I think that's a great question, and we are relieved that you're asking it. It's important to remember that there's only, on any given day, about 198 full-time equivalent positions filled in the city, and most of those are wrapped up in doing core services, and that leaves only a few of us to really work on the initiatives that are looking at the future and planning forward. And so timing and schedule of work is really important. We wanted to have for Monday's presentation a very clean and detailed explanation of what we were going to do in what order. And we ran out of time. We could not get that done in time. So we did put together a list, and I hesitate to try and flip through all these slides. Mark, you might have to help me because this one doesn't connect quite as well. There we go. It's happening. What we did do is put together a list at the end of this presentation that divided up all of the initiatives that we've worked on as a result of the city's GIO process and put them in the various buckets, if you want to call them that, of who would be responsible, at least initially. And internally, we use a process for tracking what's done by who, when. It's a piece of software that does project management. And over the next 2 months, what we will do is fill out the various subtasks required to accomplish those initiatives. And that will give us a good idea of what we can get done when. And then in January, we'll be able to come back to you with, I think, what will be a very clean explanation of our prioritization and allow the city council to tell us if we need to move things around in that order or not. As Vice Mayor Dent said, one of the things that I like about the behind-the-scenes work process that we use, this piece of software, is the ownership falls to the department heads and the city management staff, which just means that the city council has set the target of this is the initiative. These are the things we want you to do in 2 years, but you've not told us how, when, or any of those things. You're allowing us to make those internal decisions, which allows us to be the best at being efficient in that process and deploying the resources the city has towards them. And so as the Vice Mayor said, if you're following along with the story that software tells, and hopefully this year we'll be able to share more of the behind-the-scenes work because it does offer a public vector to see that, you'll see how that process unfolds, because many of the initiatives, we start out the process, explore, review, consider, and the outcome may not be what we thought it was going to be. And so midway through the exploring and the considering, we decide to pivot and go a different direction. And that's one of the things that this allows us to do. So I think while we want to treat the GIOs, and it's important that we treat the GIOs as something that is a concrete guide of what we're going to do in the next 2 years, we do have to respect the fact that as we go through the process, we learn more about it, and the document is a little bit dynamic.
Thank you.
Yes, I have no questions, ready to support it. I think it really pushes us towards fulfilling our vision, and also am very respectful of time and resources at city staff, and that things can happen in between, and you have to shift a little bit. Who would have ever thought we shifted in 2020 like we did? So, no questions.
concur with all that's been said and just want to echo mainly a thanks to staff. As we mentioned many times, a lot of the future festivals were after work or on Saturday mornings or in a deluge of rain. So thank you all for all the dedication in actually getting those 900 some comments. They were very helpful as we got through to this document. I think for those listening in or here today, being curious about the ambitious sense of Williamsburg, this is what to look at. So there's a lot of what we do in the meantime, but there's a lot of forward-thinking projects on here as well that I know we're proud of and excited to see through.
Thank you. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, so I recommend that City Council adopt the 2023-2024 goals, initiatives, and outcomes as drafted.
Second.
Mr. Trivett?
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Okay, so that concludes our new business portion. Takes us now to closed session. I think we have some items we need to discuss.
I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711 to discuss one personnel matter per subparagraph 1 concerning boards and commissions, one matter per subparagraph 11 for the purpose of discussing a special award, one matter per subparagraph 3 regarding acquisition of property for a public project of which discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect bargaining position or negotiating strategy of a public body, and one matter pursuant to subparagraph 5 concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community.
Second.
Mr. Trivett?
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Okay. So we will go into closed session, and once we're done, we'll come back out in open session and continue the meeting if necessary. We are back in open session. Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have certification for us?
I move to approve the certification of a closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 in the Code of Virginia.
Is there a second?
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we're back in, under new business, we have a new item under 11A, consideration and authorization for the city manager to execute a revenue sharing incentive agreement with Uptown Alleys associated with the development of a family entertainment center at 2200 Richmond Road. Ms. Adams, are you going to take this? Do you want to make a presentation at all, or?
It's up to you all. Yep.
So,
It'd be good if you did.
Okay, what am I doing?
Podium.
just come over here and tell us what, about the EDA's proposal and your recommendation to offer the incentive to Uptown Alley folks.
Certainly, happy to. So Uptown Alley is a family entertainment center. They feature bowling, the latest in audio and video technology. They've got a variety of different entertainment options, arcades for kids, all kinds of entertainment for the whole family. They would like to open a 5th location in Williamsburg. 2 locations are in Virginia. They have one in Arizona and one in China. They are looking at the former Yankee Candle building located at 2200 Richmond Road. It would require a full retrofit to fit their needs. The original incentive application was for a fair bit of money. We were able to negotiate them down to the $600,000 incentive package.
So as I understand it, this incentive package is kind of a clawback, as we call it here. It's not taking money from the city directly and providing cash to a developer. It's based on their sales receipts, and we return to them a portion of what they collected from their customers.
Correct.
So it's a no net loss to the city.
Exactly. The idea here is that without this incentive, this business would not come to the city. So the taxes that they're bringing in over the course of the first 5 years are over $1 million. So what you're sharing back with them is less than half of what they'll be bringing in, knowing that in the future, beyond that 5 years, the city will be retaining 100% of the tax base. The EDA did review the application in closed session yesterday, and they have unanimously recommended that City Council approve this incentive package.
This is something that we've done for other businesses that have opened up and it's been.
Yeah, several examples of success with this program in the past.
So I think it's a great idea for lots of reasons, not the least of which it provides what I think is a good use for the Yankee Candle building, what is affectionately known as the Yankee Candle building, hopefully soon to be known as Uptown Alley building on Richmond Road. It's a large building, and I think it's far better use than what it's being used for today. So thank you for the presentation.
Nothing else.
Yeah, 2 things. Just could you mention a little bit about this being a destination and the multiplier effect, how it actually helps other businesses contribute to our vibrancy, and then also improving our nightlife, because that's one of the things that we hear from a lot of young adults is there's nothing going on at night.
Absolutely, yeah. So their target demographic, you were asking about millennials in a former meeting when I was presenting. This is that demographic. So they're very family friendly. At their existing location up in Chesterfield, they have a family friendly area and a 21 and up area. So it really serves a variety of community members. They're really excited to partner with the community. So they have a number of businesses that they're eager to partner with and work with in the area. They mentioned in the EDA meeting yesterday wanting to partner with local hotels, offering discounts to guests that are staying overnight, and a variety of things like that.
Thank you.
And thank you, Yuri, for the presentation. And 2 other key points. The Yankee Candle location has lots of parking.
Correct.
So it's not something that they will have to worry about. And to your point about the demographic, one of the members of the EDA commented his interest in, is it VR?
Virtual reality,
Virtual
correct.
reality, and how that is, something that younger people look forward to or look defined, and that he was waitlisted at a location in New York for a VR experience until March of 2023. So it is something that they search out. So just one component.
Yes,
for-
that
for a lot of-
EDA member is a recent William and Mary grad and was particularly excited for what this would offer the college.
Yeah, so, thank you.
I have no additional questions, Yuri. We certainly want to put something else as vibrant as Yankee Candle was in that space.
Or more so.
So we
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yes, so I move that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a revenue sharing incentive agreement with Uptown Alley associated with the development of a family entertainment center at 2200 Richmond Road.
Second.
Mr. Trivett?
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Excited to have that opportunity to come to us. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Would anybody like to make a motion?
So I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Maslin?
Aye.